Hey, what's up? Let's put together a show. This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakRidgeFord.com, Norman, London. Mike in Buffalo. It is Sunday, March 3rd, 2024. Coming off, for me, the game of the year. Leafs Rangers, a 4-3 decision in favor of the Maple Brothers. Max Domi putting it away in the shootout. But before that, this affair had everything that you wanted it to have. Great offense, great defense, amazing goaltending, and a big heavyweight tilt between Matt Rempe and Ryan Reeves. We were anticipating it. It finally happened in the third period. Looked like a couple of juggernauts going at it, Mike, a couple of, dare I say, real contenders. And the Leafs came out victorious. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Norm. Yeah, I know everybody hates fighting, don't they? I mean, that crowd was just sitting on their hands and booing after that bout. They just hate the pugilism. I mean, the league is going in that direction in terms of doing away with fighting. But when you get players that are 6'7", like Rempe, and he can throw, and whatever fighters there are left in the league, it's going to have an effect. And I can't wait to see him fight Tom Wilson. Although, you could see by the black and blue marks on his eyes that he hasn't perfected protecting himself. And, Reeves got in a couple good punches. But I think that fight was necessary in a sort of negative reinforcement purpose because of what Rempe did early in the game. And like I said, he's a young player, so maybe he doesn't realize, the rules of the game, so to speak. He's 6'7". Yeah. In an earlier game against the Devils, a big Nathan Bastian, I think he's 6'3" or 6'4". Rempe elbowed him in the head area, and it was close to being head contact. Bastian got his face cut by the visor. So I mean, but there was no. I don't even think there was a fine. Okay, last night, Rempe at full speed from across the ice, probably coming off the bench, went into Ilya Lyubushkin and left his feet. There was not a minor called. There was
The Rangers don't care. Rangers fans don't care.
Well,
Mike, he's out there, but he's not out there to score 40 goals. You know what he's out there to do. And even if we believe the league is trending towards full-scale ice capades, you and I would rather see guys like this on the ice. Sure, they toe the line a little bit, but we know what he's out there for. So keep your fucking head up.
Right, and I don't give a good goddamn what Rangers fans want, but I mean, I'm in their court in terms of wanting big physical players playing in games. But my point is, not a charging call, and to this point at 9:39 a.m. on the following day, nothing from the Department of Player Safety. This league is a friggin' joke. Yep. If Matt Rempe does not even get a hearing on that because LeBron left the game with a concussion, with concussion-like symptoms, did not come back. Now they say he's okay, but Ridley Gregg was okay, and that didn't matter.
I know.
So let's see.
We're going to have to wait our way through this, Mike. If the world is against the Maple Leafs, the league, the intelligentsia, then so be it. We are not ever going to feel like there's full equality, whether it's right or wrong. We're just going to have to go for it and deal with the inequality that we feel that the Leafs have to react to. In terms of Rempe, this guy has come on the scene like no other in recent memory, and he's doing what he's expected to do. Will the league calm his shit down, and will maybe he take a step back for his own health and safety? That remains to be seen. At the end of the day, Ryan Reeves, full value on display yesterday. I don't know if it's retribution or payback or anything like that, but we all expected that the two were going to throw him even before Ilya Lyubushkin got hit to that extent. So it is what it is. At the end of the day, the Maple Leafs were able to pull out a 4-3 win in the shootout. Sure, they gave up one late with an extra attacker for the Rangers, but man, they're facing one of the best teams in the league, and man, they really did respond well. And it's just exemplifies the play of late. I mean, and I'm not talking a couple of games. I'm talking a 10-plus game run here where the Leafs have really punched above their weight, back up into an upper tier class, and it's really, really refreshing. And again, as I said last week, I want to see this team play more because what they've done for me lately, it's just it's so encouraging. It's lots of fun. It's the kind of team we've wanted to see them become, and here they are in the flesh.
Well, I'll just say fine. Just touch on the Rempe thing with one statement, and then move on to what you just mentioned. I'm not a Leaf homer in the sense that I think the league has something against the Leafs.
Sure.
But what I do say is when you've got a guy who is full speed running into and jumping and running into somebody's head, and you're talking about protecting players, if you're supposed to be the Department of Player Safety, then have a little consistency. If they don't have a little consistency, then a lot of people, like Leaf fans right now, will start to think that they're biased against the Leafs. Now, that being said, about the game, yes, it was one of the best games of the year. Ilya Samsonov was at times fantastic. He's been very good, competent since coming back, since the reset, since coming back from the broken psyche. Am I 100% confident that he will play that way in the playoffs? No. If it's me, I'm still going with Joseph Woll in the playoffs, and we'll talk about Woll in a little bit.
And Woll looked good against Arizona,
right?
So let them both play, let them both succeed, and let them battle for the opportunity when the postseason arrives.
Exactly. But what last night showed you, and this is the game that it's March the 3rd, and this is the game that we're going to play the next 6 weeks. The Leafs are in third place. More than likely, unless they keep up this torrid pace for the rest of the year, they're going to end up in either third or second place. If I have the opportunity to choose my opponent, I am not choosing the Florida Panthers. I am not choosing the team that the Leafs played last night, the New York Rangers, because they have Igor Shesterkin, one of the best goalies in the league, and their offense is good and their defense is really good. Special teams is good. They're big, they're physical. I don't think it's a good. I mean, the Leafs won last night, but I don't think it's a good matchup. I obviously don't think Florida is a good matchup because Florida are a bunch of rats. The Boston Bruins is probably the most favorable matchup of the three potential teams. Then that's the team that the Leafs play on Monday. Of all of them, and Boston is slumping right now. They're injured right now. That doesn't mean that's going to be the case after March the 8th. They may trade for a center. They may be better. But I'm telling you right now, I don't want to face the Rangers in the first round. I don't want to face Florida because it's first round and out for this team if they face those two teams. They can't think that way. But as an impartial observer who has watched this team for most of my life, they will lose if they play Florida or the Rangers.
Hey, this is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. March brings with it new programs, low interest on F-150s. I have all kinds of Leafs specials. Did I say Leafs specials? I meant lease specials on Mach-E if you want to drive all electric, Edge, Escape, Maverick. Again, F-150 at Norman Oak Ridge Ford on Instagram. When you reach out to me, it helps support our sponsor who supports the show, and you love to be with us several times a week. We appreciate it very much. But without our sponsorship, without some sort of monetary push on the back end of things, Mike and I may not be able to do this thing forever. And, we're into season 6, deep into season 6, heading into the playoffs. We'd like to get to maybe 10 seasons, Mike and I, and by that time we'll be a couple of full-scale geriatrics. So you'll have no other choice but to support us in every which way you can, because the pathos and the sympathy will be running rampant. Mike, I just like the way the Leafs are playing. I really do. I like how the mix of lines and how every player on the ice seems to have a reason for being out there. There doesn't seem to be any dead weight right now, and it's a really, really nice thing to see at this juncture of the season. That said, with the trade deadline coming up, Brad Treliving has plenty of food for thought and a lot of encouragement from the guys who are telling him with their play that they are worth the support from the corporate elements of the organization, if you know what I'm getting at. The Leafs did expend a first-round pick not too long ago, and it really didn't bear the fruit that they had hoped.
Right.
They have more first-round picks in the coffer. They would essentially like to continue to compile all of this draft capital, but here we are right now. Dare I say, the Leafs have dipped their toe in the water of true contendership. What the hell does Brad Treliving do before the trade deadline coming up?
Well, you can show support for this team and improve this team without giving up your first-round pick.
Right.
And it's like right now, okay, for example, Treliving came out on Friday and he said, well, am I completely opposed to giving up the first-round pick? But no, it needs to make sense. And I agree with that. But trading it for a rental makes no sense.
Yeah.
If it's a guy who's got term on his contract, meaning another year or two, similar to what Jake McCabe had. He had 2 years left on his contract. Chicago retained 50%. They traded a first-round pick in that deal. Then they traded a first-round pick in the Ryan O'Reilly deal and then got a first-round pick back. The reason they got a first-round pick back is because first-round picks are valuable. And I'm sorry, anybody want to give away Easton Cowan right now? He's playing pretty good. So you don't give away your 2024 first, even if the draft, as a lot of draft experts say, is, about 20 players deep in terms of first-round talent. Who knows? I mean, I've talked to enough people who know a lot about the draft to say, people can say it's 20 players deep, and then you look 5 years back and you see guys who are taken in the second and third round who are stars. So that dog don't hunt. I'm just saying, I don't think the Leafs are in on Noah Hanifin because Noah Hanifin is not going to re-sign with the Leafs. Tanev is already gone. There is not a rental player. Jake Gensel makes no sense. There is not a rental player on the market that is worthy of the Leafs trading their first-round pick. Now, if they're trading for a defenseman like a Mario Ferraro from San Jose or Jacob Chikrin if he gets moved or somebody like that who's got a year left in his contract, then sign me up. Fine. But I am not trading that 2024 first-round pick. You can add around the edges. You can add depth to this organization. I think you need another defenseman. You can upgrade the blue line. There are rental guys you could get probably. You could maybe still get Matt Dumbo without giving up that first-round pick. But no, I don't do it. You can show confidence in this team. You can add Odog Chung in the chat saying trade Robertson. Yeah, if you get a young player that's retainable, sure. I wouldn't trade Liljegren. Liljegren is a right shot defenseman. He's right. Good. Why the hell? When you are shorthanded on the right side, why would you trade a right-hand shot defenseman?
Well, why wouldn't you? He's good. Get rid of him for someone who might be good. Just the same way we want to trade Mitch Marner. He's exceptional. Trade him away for a bunch of pieces. That's the mentality.
Yeah, go get Colton Perret. Okay, Colton is a $6.5 million defenseman. He's big and he doesn't hit. He can't stay healthy most of the time. And there's a reason why his name is being floated out there by St. Louis, because he hasn't been good since 2019. They signed him to the long term. He's not a bad defenseman. He's just not a $6.5 million defenseman. So, I mean, hey, nobody has said longer than I, this team needs to add top 4 blue liners.
Right.
Well, they're not growing on trees. So you're going to have to wait until the summer to sign a top 4 blue liner if they get Chris Tanev or Dumba. I don't think they can go out and trade for a top 4 defenseman. They're going to plug in Lyubushkin if he's not out too long playing with Morgan Rielly because it worked. Maybe you add another depth defenseman. Maybe you trade out Connor Timmins. I don't know. All I know is that it makes no sense to trade that first-round pick.
This team, the way it's playing right now, is showing that it might be capable of doing things it hasn't done before. You'd always like to have more support, back end, front end, between the pipes. But it's not like it's a petri dish of opportunity out there, Mike, and the Leafs are perfectly situated to make any kind of deal they want, knowing that there will be an instantaneous improvement the game after the trades are made. That said, this team has played its way back into our hearts, and definitely is playing to a clip where the rest of the league is taking notice. And it shouldn't be that surprising, considering where this team is on the scale of experience and pedigree, and just the overall timeline of the group being together. Mike, it's a mixture of excitement and frustration based on how things turned out last night, with Lyubushkin getting concussed and Rempe running wild and the team still winning. But man, you've got to feel encouraged by the group, and I mean the Domi line with Yarncroc back, and the way that Tavares is doing what he has to do as a leader, and not necessarily getting a lot of points, but playing to the strengths that he can offer. And, Matthews and Marner and Nylander scoring the way they have. I mean, this is a really, really good time to be a Maple Leafs fan, because the team has played its way back into a position where the credibility is starting to strengthen. And you know what? Maybe it is this group and a little bit of a tweak, and they just go for it, and we see what happens. And again, the benchmark is a second round appearance to mirror what happened last season. And if you believe that it's Boston and in the Leafs the best matchup for either club, then you know what? Let's keep our fingers crossed that that's indeed what we see when the playoffs commence. Last couple of words to you. We're going to keep it really short today. I got a bit of a chest infection. It's not easy to talk.
Yeah, it's funny to say, well, the secondary players are really producing. When last night it was Tavares, Marner, and Nylander that scored the goals. But if you go through the lines, Matthew Nyes is playing much better than he did earlier in the season, fitting with Matthews and Marner. I mean, there's a lot of sort of like he knows where they are on the ice, and he's making plays, and it's a good fit. So they don't really have to load up a top line and put Nylander on that top line. Now Nylander has fit well with Bertuzzi and Domi. I don't think Domi's a perfect fit as a number 2 center, because defensively he's challenged. And the one thing I loved last night is, no matter how important Mr. Willie is, he makes a flyby on that goal from Alexis Lafreniere, and Keefe benches him the last 9 minutes of the first period. You cannot do that. That's what I'm saying. You cannot, if you are a premier player, do things like that.
I put a burn in his saddle too, and he scored a goal to tie the game.
Right, but the whole thing is, I mean, he's 26 years old. You think you would have learned that you don't do that, but he's still. But anyway, but he bounced back and he played a really good game, and he's a dangerous player out there. The problem is he can't be a double-edged sword and be dangerous to his own team. But the combo of Bertuzzi, who's been red hot, with Domi and Nylander has worked well, and Tavares, as you said, he moves down to the third line. Bobby McMahon is playing his best hockey. Now you add Yarncroc, and now you've got a 3-line attack and the fourth line. I mean, nobody was a bigger critic than Reeves, because Reeves was a complete liability. He's played better the last few weeks. If he continues to play like that with physicality in limited minutes and doesn't make bad giveaways, then fine, stick him on the fourth line. That's great. And Kampf and Holmberg are covering up for him defensively. So that's a work. You've got an extra forward in Gregor, and Jason in the chat is like, trade Gregor. Who the hell wants Gregor? He's an extra forward. Right. So, they've got a little bit of depth up front with Gregor, with Robertson, who they'll probably call back after the deadline if they don't trade him for a defenseman. But, you can add depth pieces. I don't know whether, unless you're going to trade that first-round pick, you can make a significant add that will make a difference without giving up a significant asset. And honestly, I don't, as I've been consistent over the last month, Norm, I don't think that unless they play Boston, and Boston continues to struggle as they have over the last month, I don't think they're beating Florida. I don't think they're beating the Rangers. They might beat Boston, but that's about. I don't think they're getting out of the second round at best. And you don't trade a first-round pick when you're a team that doesn't have a legitimate chance to win a Stanley Cup.
What are you basing this belief on, Mike? What we've seen prior to this great run, just historically, the way this team tends to conclude its seasons, knowing that the team could use another bona fide defenseman on the back end to help strengthen things, or is this just you being you and having that skeptical pulse regarding this team, knowing what you know, seeing what you've seen, and basically telling everybody you'll believe it when you see it. So until that time, I don't believe the Leafs can get to where we all want them to get to. The competition's just that much better until proven otherwise.
Yeah, it's less about my Leaf reflex when it comes to them not playing well when it counts. It's more about looking at the opposition. Looking at, we saw what the Rangers are. The Rangers have a top flight goaltender in Shesterkin. He's one of the best in the league. Florida has Bobrovsky. We know how well Bobrovsky played last year, and he's playing very well this year. The Rangers are defensively much more sound up front and on defense. Adam Fox is a Norris Trophy winner. Florida has got Ekblad and Montour and a solid 6-man group. Up front, Florida are a bunch of jerks. I mean, you've got Cousins and Bennett and Lomborg on top of their top end quality of Kachuk and Barkov. We know what the Rangers have with Panarin and Kreider. I mean, the Leafs can match up to them up front, but the other aspects, I think they fall short. So I think Florida and the Rangers have a distinct advantage. It's not saying that it's impossible that the Leafs can be. I just believe in a 7-game series, Florida and the Rangers are much better and would win. Boston, on the other hand, goaltending has been an issue. Defense with their injuries, with Lindholm out, with Grzelcyk injured. Their centers are weak. The Leafs would have a definite advantage up the middle with Matthews, Domi, and Tavares up the middle against Morgan Geekie, Pavel Zacha, and Charlie Coyle. Now, obviously, you have to contend with Marchand, who's a prick, and Pasternak, who's one of the best players in the league. And the Leafs still have, I think, a gag reflex when it comes to the Bruins. But I'm just looking at it logically. I think right now the Leafs are an imperfect team. They're good. They're just not great. And those teams are good to great. And it would take a Herculean effort that I have not seen, and consistency that I have not seen from this team all year. They've played well the last month.
But isn't this the time to start playing well, Mike? Isn't this the time to start changing minds? And have they not begun to do that? This hasn't, like the Leafs, this has not been a speed wobble, Mike. They've been playing better late in games. They've been holding leads. They have been throwing fisticuffs. They have been playing tougher. They have more balanced scoring. The defense looks better. The goaltending is beginning to solidify. Again, I'm not trying to be devil's advocate here, Mike. This is just a known thing. Isn't this the time you start ramping up? And aren't the Leafs doing that?
Well, Norm, a month ago,
right?
When in the middle of January, what you would say is the beginning of the time that this team should ramp up to start playing playoff hockey after the halfway point of the season, this team lost 5 of 6 games. So, could the real Maple Leafs please stand out? I mean, right now they're playing great. We don't know what they're going to play like in March because we don't know what this team is. And on top of that, when you have a defense that you're going to have to play William Lagesson and Maxime Lajoie when one guy drops,
right?
That's what I'm talking about. You've got a Florida Panthers team that added Nico Mikkola, NHL defenseman, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, NHL defenseman, and added it to the group when Montour and Ekblad were out. Well, Montour and Ekblad are back. Now they have a 6-man defensive crew that is probably one of the best in the league. And the Rangers, other than a guy like Eric Gustafsson, who's a complete piece of crap, he's just a lousy defenseman. and they're probably going to add at the death. And the Rangers are only going to get stronger, and Florida might get stronger.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. It's like I'm not saying the Leafs are bad. I'm just saying they're not as good as their potential matchups in the playoffs. And when that's the case, now management can't do that, and players can't say that. But I can say that because I'm somebody who watches this team, who has seen this team, who looks at other teams and compares the two. It's not impossible that they beat Florida or the Rangers, but it's pretty unlikely. But could they beat the Bruins? Yes.
OG's Converse, what do you think? Like the content, subscribe to the channel. Names being brought up in the chat, Mike. You've already dropped a couple of names, players the Leafs potentially could target, depending if the deal was right, players you don't think would make a lot of sense. Give me 5 names right now, Mike, and we'll encapsulate this show. 5 names that we can chew on, think about, Google, dream of prior to the trade deadline on Friday, and we'll just see how it all shakes out.
Okay, I don't think they're going to trade for a goaltender, and I don't think they're going to trade a goalie. So the 3 goalies that they have, they'll stick with.
Right.
On defense, if they add another sort of extra body type of veteran guy, potentially an Eric Johnson from Buffalo is a possibility. Buffalo would have to retain money on him because his contract is $3.25 million, but he's a veteran. He's a right-hander. He's physical. He could help on the PK, which is an area that's a problem for the Leafs. And the Leafs were in Buffalo a lot a couple weeks ago and Treliving was in Buffalo. So I think he's going to get traded, and that might be somebody who they could give up a low draft pick and get. Dumba is still a possibility, but I think it would take at least a second-round pick and probably another draft pick to get somebody to retain 50%. And I don't know how much, he would help. I mean, there are some defensive issues. He's physical, but he's not really he's a top 4 defenseman in terms of his skill set, but sometimes his inconsistency is really annoying. In terms of forward, now, okay. I'll just say this. Spike has got a list there. All those guys. Carrier is a rental. I don't think he adds much because he's small. He's a right-hander, but he's small. David Savard's got a year left, and so does Borgen. That would make it cost. But I'm not giving a first-round pick up for David Savard unless Montreal retains half his salary. Then that deal would be similar to the Jake McCabe deal.
Borgen, and like you can't expend draft capital just to bring in a name. It's got to be somebody you believe fits in right and will make this team that much better in its pursuit of success.
Right. I mean, the only scenario that I am trading the first round, that 2024 first round pick for, is if the Leafs get a top 4 right-hand shot defenseman. Otherwise,
like who?
No. Well, I mean, Adam Larson is the name that was mentioned in the chat, but because Adam Larson has term left in his contract, but he's making significant money, and I don't know and this is the thing, Seattle wants to make the playoffs next year, so it makes no sense for them to trade Will Borgen or Adam Larson unless they can flip the first round pick someplace else to get somebody who's a better player. So I don't think those are realistic. Do I think Ottawa is going to trade Jacob Chychrun inside their own division to their arch rival? Not a chance.
But business is business, though, Mike.
No, business is business. But there's a reason why Buffalo hasn't made a trade with Toronto since Dominic Moore for a second-round pick. Business is, was business when the Leafs traded 2 draft picks that turned out to be Tyler Seguin and Dougie Hamilton for Phil Kessel. That was Brian Burke's biggest brain fart. You don't, if you're talking about significant deals, you don't make them with team in your own division because your mistakes show up every 4 games in the season and it's a cluster F. You don't do it.
Okay, I've got Johnson, Dumba, Larson, Chychrun. One more name.
The one area where the Leafs are really, I think, hurting is penalty killing. Right. And it's not a big splash, but again, I'm trying to attach the Leafs scouting Buffalo for a reason, and a defensive forward like Eric Robinson, who's a big, fast, good penalty killing forward, would cost next to nothing. That might be a move. Now, it might not be him, it might be somebody like him, but I do think that they're going to add somebody that can penalty kill, because honestly, in a playoff scenario, do you want Austin Matthews, Nylander, and Marner blocking shots? No. So
but again, you imagine four rounds, everything will happen. Like every scenario you can dream of will come true, and you will be in the middle of it, good, bad, or ugly.
But you're increasing the possibility of them getting hurt with them blocking shots in a penalty killing role. You need them 5-on-5,
right,
and you need them on the power play. You can have other players who can do just as effective a job penalty killing. Put Noah Gregor out there. And I'm not saying I don't care if Noah Gregor gets hurt, but if Noah Gregor gets hurt, he's easily replaceable. If Austin Matthews gets hurt, it's your season.
Right. OG's converts, like the content, subscribe to the channel. It's an affair with Boston coming up, potentially a playoff preview. Does the game mean anything other than a point or better yet, 2 points, Mike?
Well, I don't know whether there's any lingering thought. I would hope there would be, based on what happened between Marchand and Liljegren going back earlier in the season. Marchand accomplishes his goal by getting under the skin of the opposition and being the focus, but that doesn't mean you can't hit him. That doesn't mean you can't make it painful for him. And guys like Bertuzzi or guys like Nyes or guys like Ryan, you put Ryan Reeves out against Marchand, the puck is going to be in your net.
Right.
So, but there are players that can match up with him that can make his life a living hell. So they need to do that. But yes, the game when Boston came to Toronto, I think it was in December, was a pretty physical contest. And these teams don't like each other. So, and there's a very good possibility they're going to meet each other in the playoffs. So yeah, set the tone. I agree with what Ed just said.
Maybe it shouldn't just be another game to the Maple Leafs, right?
No.
Maybe it shouldn't be. With the way they've played recently, with Reeves out there giving everybody a lift in their skates, and this belief that they are protected. Maybe it's not another game. Maybe it's a kind of a game that you make a statement, and then you make another statement against the team you really don't give a fuck about otherwise. That's what you need to start doing when you're plotting the course for a real legitimate playoff run. Help from trades be damned.
And here's the reality of the schedule. The Leafs have, I think it's 23 games left, something like that. You know how many games against the Western Conference they have?
Like one. Right, the Oilers.
Edmonton. The rest are against the teams that they face, the teams that they could face in the first round or deeper in the playoffs. So, yes, they've played well. They played great in February. They had the second best record in the NHL in February, next to the New York Rangers. Right. Now it's time, folks. Now it's where games count, where points count even more. And they've got to show up. And if they play okay, then that's what we have seen most of the year. If they play really good, I think this Brad Treliving has been given the go ahead essentially by his players to make moves that maybe a couple weeks ago he wouldn't make. Does that mean you sell out and you go all in? No. Right.
There's always tomorrow, Mike. Yeah. There's always tomorrow. Look, third in the league in goals scored. They had the top power play for a couple of minutes last night. Number 2 in the league. The penalty kills 21st. There's some meat left on that bone for improvement. You've got 3 goaltenders. Wall is back. Samsonov's playing as good as he's played as a Maple Leaf. The defense needs some help, but man, the way this team is running out 4 lines right now, super encouraging. Why the hell not continue to go on a run and play at a 600, 650 clip and barrel your way into the playoffs and take another stab at this thing? Why the heck not? The Leafs are better positioned today than they have been all season long. And I don't know if that's saying too much, considering they are still minus a few players that would make us a lot more comfortable as they endeavor forward. But hey, it could be a hell of a ton worse. So let's just try to enjoy the ride. The trade deadline on Friday. Mike and I will have another show between now and then. Mike, you and I can bandy about some opportunities here in the next few days, and then we will reconvene. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. OG's Converts, we're looking for about 100 subs. So if you're one of those people who keeps coming back in, week out, you enjoy what we do, but you're holding your subs close to the vest because they are, the most important thing in your life, I don't know, give us one. OakRidgeFord.com is where you'll find your next car. HockeyBuzz.com is where you can find all of Mike's incredible work. We appreciate you. The three of us collectively together on these Sundays means the world to me. And we'll do it plenty more times before the Leafs get into the playoffs. And maybe this is the year they go on a deep run, because the further they go, the more Leafs Convo content you will get. Mike, anything else you want to add, buddy?
Just Friday, next Friday for Deadline, Hockey Buzz will have the Deadline show from noon till probably 4 o'clock. So
yeah, and that's great. More content. HockeyBuzz.com, the Leafs Convo. Amid the glut of content and just stuff that you can sink your teeth into regarding what's going on with the NHL trade deadline and then beyond. It's our pleasure to do so. Hey, Mike, have yourself a great Sunday, a great week ahead. We'll see you in a few days. OG's Converts, thanks so much. For Mike, I'm Norm. We are out.